we'll do more of the astronomy ritual type thing next week, and then we'll do another must farm the following week. So that's the way we like it. Right, sort of that's the way we like it. I need to know, Peter, if you've got any
Yes.
news, darling.
Any what?
News.
Any news?
No, no news from me. No.
Okay, okay. I will thank you all for paying your monies, except for one person whose name shall not, who shall remain anonymous, Margaret, who decided to pay it tomorrow instead to be annoying. Because Margaret's got like an OCD of paying things, right? She's got to do it on the 1st of May, not today. It's got to be on the 1st of May. Sorry, Margaret, I'm only having a laugh with you. Not really. I'm just really annoyed. Right. Anyway, okay. So talking about being annoyed, Margaret, I've totally embarrassed her. You see her cheeks, they're really puffed out, really cute and lovely. You know, it's almost as if you could give you a good old slappy kiss on that side and give a kiss on Drina's other side, brother. Keep them happy. Right, Margaret, anything from you, lovely?
AI helps scholars read scroll buried when Vesuvius erupted in AD 79.
Wow.
Plato.
I've heard this. Go on, tell us more.
Plato's final hours recounted in scroll found in Vesuvius ash.
Yeah.
The scroll describes Plato's last evening, describing how he listened to music played on a flute by a Thracian slave girl, despite battling a fever and being at the brink of death. He died in Athens around 348 BC. The decoded words suggest his burial site was in his death.
Go on, carry on.
Was in his garden in the Academy of Athens, the world's first university, which he founded. The text reveals Plato was sold into slavery in 404 BC when the Spartans conquered the island of Aegina. The scroll was preserved in a lavish villa in Herculaneum and discovered in 1750, believed to have belonged to Julius Caesar's father-in-law, but AI have managed to decipher it. This was in the news today.
And can I explain? These rolls are like big black chocolate logs. I can't remember the name of the guy, but there was like an antiquarian scholar in the latter part of the 1700s, and he used to get a razor blade and used to slice down the middle of these charred things, and they used to get to the center, and there'd be 1 or 2 pages with a few words on that they could actually count.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's amazing that they
it's good
that,
it's good that we don't have to open them now, because they're going to be relics preserved forever that you can actually read. And actually, in a way, Margaret, that's probably the best way of preserving them, to be able to read, because when they're charcoaled like that and you're not opening them, and obviously the consistency and the way that they are like that will mean that there'll be a record that will remain a hell of a lot longer than the book. And if it was opened, it's going to go into smithereens. So that's a really good way of looking at how technology is coming on.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is the AI thing. And oh God. I saw something using AI the other day, and I just thought, this is just too real. And this is one thing in the acting industry. They're thinking that AI is going to start replacing actors on stage and TV and all the rest of it. And when you think about it, it's already happening, because when we look at some of the more recent Star Wars films, they had the like of Alec Guinness, and the like of was it Peter Cushing? Their characters were revived, even though they've been dead quite a few years, which is sometimes a good thing, which is sometimes takes away the reality of these things. But it is part of it. It's a really good that they're using it that way anyway. So
yeah,
can't complain.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Rog the Dodge, love. Rog, I want to know if you found anything more about that Cardiff map yet, because I want to know if you've got a Roman site there or not, Roger.
Yes, I have. Today I obtained a copy,
Oh,
1875 surveyed area.
oh,
Got one to send to you, along with the current road map, so you can see how it's placed. It shows the place of the Roman station, remains of that were there in 1875, now long gone. But it's nice and clear, and hopefully you can understand the map easily enough, so you'll get that soon. So that's what.
it'll be an absolute delight next week, Roger.
Okay,
And,
I'll send it off this week, someone. You can have a good look at it, and that's it. The other point that came up was this: the find of this item, this dual decagon.
Yeah.
That was
yes,
found in near Lincoln, and they're trying to work out what it is. It's a 3-inch wide thing, 8 ounces, with it's hollow, and they're not sure if it's a religious thing or a magic thing. What? It's not a strange looking thing, and they found a few of them, and they're digging on this site to see what else might be there. If it's a religious site, and a lot of things with archaeology, if you don't know what it is, they say it's ritual.
Yeah.
But it's strange to know it's too big for a gaming thing, too big for hanging on a horse or decoration. I'm wondering, because it's hollow, could they have used it to pack something in there to burn or in a ceremony or something? But they're still looking at it. It's going into the Lincoln Museum Saturday to do with the history of a festival of history. So it's not Disney.
and actually, right. Strangely enough, that this I think this is the one that Alice Roberts was involved with. I'm not exactly sure if it was or
Yes,
not.
it was written last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at my devices a minute, and I don't know what's wrong with Andy's technology tonight. But Peter, can you? Andy's got problems with his technology, so you're gonna have to try and help me with bringing him on and off if you
Yes,
can,
okay.
Peter. So.
Okay.
And actually, I got slightly distracted there because this one about the decahedrons. I've got some news I can add to that. So I've got to do that a minute. So whilst I'm faffing around in the background, keep talking. There is something that which would be really interesting to give you a reason what they are, because a few weeks back, somebody that I worked with about a year and a bit ago said that I've got this idea for you. Add him on. I've got this idea for you, and I wanted me to share that with people when it was made public. So I'm just gonna try and get his details up here, and I will try and add to that. Right. Anything from you, David?
No, sorry.
Anything from you, Drina?
They've done a LiDAR survey of a farmland in Eastern Ireland, and they've found multiple prehistoric monuments.
Ooh.
Bronze
Oh,
Age
nice.
and 5 Neolithic curses monuments, long and
Oh,
narrow
nice.
work, built
Yes.
some 1,500 years ago.
Gosh.
And that's all new surveying in Ireland, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
County.
brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Somebody's phone's ringing, obviously, there. Right, anything from you, Andy? Obviously, you are getting problems tonight. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, no, I can hear you and I can see you all very clearly, but for some reason my camera's not working. I just had to upgrade it. Went off again when I just joined, so don't know what's going on there, but I can definitely see you all and I can see what's going on. So, but nothing to report.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna put this decahedron stuff on, right, and I'm going to add in what this guy was saying, what he thought they were about, right, and I'm just gonna try and add that in there. Right. Anything from you, Anne?
No, I'm sorry.
Right, so I think we've done everybody. So we're going to go to the main screen and show these decahedron things, and then I want to add some some news I've got for you. So there's good old Baldric. He still gets his big cuddles, and I carry him across the field, and he is a king. I had him on my shoulder the other day. I nearly broke my neck. Right, so here we go. Roger, how do you spell this again? It's
Dodeca
D-E
Hegron. Dodecahedron.
bingo. Right, okay. Got it. Dodecahedron, and it's Roman
bronze.
Yeah, that's right. Right, there it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out this article. Right, I'm going to read out this article from the text, and I'm going to try and add in. Oh, got that there. Oh, Guardian. Right. So right. One of the things is that a number of these have been found in Britain. Right. They're not impossible. They're not completely rare, and a few have been found in a British context, and you can see the shape on there, right? And I can read out the article, and I'm gonna add in what this chap says. He's called Richard, right? I've got this on. He contacted me like 12 o'clock at night a few weeks ago. Anyway, so we've got another one of these being found, and it says mysterious Roman dodecahedron. What is it again? Decahedron, yeah.
Dodecahedron.
Dodecahedron. There you go. Just say it as he's not looking. Right. Dodecahedron. Again, another one found in literature. There are no known descriptions or drawings of an object in Roman literature making its purpose clear. But this explanation that I've got in front of me, which isn't in front of us, might help. They are known as one of archaeology's great enigmas. Hollow 12-sided objects, as in dodecahedron, from the Roman era with no known purpose or use. Only 33 of these mysterious dodecahedrons have ever been found in Britain, and now one unearthed during an amateur archaeology excavation after 1,700 years underground is going on public display in Lincoln as part of a history festival. And here we go. It's going that it's measuring 8 centimeters tall and weighing 254 grams. Its excavation was particularly important as it was found where it was placed 1,700 years ago, meaning the site could hold clues as to its purpose. Only 3 other examples of dodecahedrons have been found on archaeological excavations. So in other words, we've got 3 plus this one, which is 4 out of the 33 that have been found. Richard Parker, and the guy who's writing this is also called Richard, which found the item, said historians were no closer to find out what these objects were despite extensive research. The imagination races when thinking about what the Romans may have used it for. But the explanation I've got in front of me might make it a lot more simple to understand. A huge amount of time, energy, and skill was taken to create this object, which I completely agree. So it was not used for mundane purposes. The Norton Disney dodecahedron, which is where it was found, made of a copper alloy, is the only example found in the Midlands, but one of 33 across Britain. It is in excellent condition with no damage and finished to a high standard. And it's talking about, it was found on the top of a hill in a former large pit of some kind. Amateur excavation, 2023, along with some pottery from the 300s, owing to time and financial constraints, with it dodecahedron found on the penultimate day of the excavation. So what I'm going to do, we're going to bring up this image here, and there it is, and I'm going to read out what this says. He says, you can hold it in your hand. The weight is unique to that item due to the mix of alloys, some rare, each one a little different. So each of these is a little different. And I know there's one on display, I think, in Hereford Museum, and I think there's one in display also in Abergavenny Museum. So you can see them on display. The weight is unique to that item. Watch the words. It's unique to that item, the one in front of us. Due to the mix of alloys, some rare, each one a little different. They're all a little different. No one can easily duplicate it once felt and examined. Each is unique to a set area. Once handled, never forgotten. And you can see inside it, as you can see, right? Weights range over a scale of about 10 to 12 times the smallest. I'm not really sure what that means. And this is a very interesting thing. They're in a set scale. Okay, they go up in scale. So this person who's been studying these, I think, for a decade, right, or longer, because I can remember him talking about this years ago. Well, a year and a half ago, he said they are to buy and sell. They are standard weights. Now tell me that even if they are not, they're exactly what you'd reach for if given a weight or something to someone who had to return it. And obviously, they're different sizes and different scales, but they're all similar to those scales. But there's slight difference in scales, and they're perfectly created, right? So, you know, if you're going to do this as a weights and measure thing, and you can see the different holes. Can you remember these things that you used to have when you were children? You used to have put blocks in. Yeah,
that's like
bingo.
I was going to say to Drina, I bet her children had one of these.
Oh yeah, something like
that.
Yeah, mine did, and they put different size things in the holes.
Exactly. Now you can see if you could put chaff of barley in this, chaff of wheat, or you could use it as a weight measure for salt, bread, grain, even gold.
How about spaghetti?
Spaghetti?
Yeah.
Well, rice, but I don't think the Italians had spaghetti back then. It's a standard measure, and that's they are not worn or marked. They're not worn or marked. So in other words, they're not used for a game or anything like that. And basically, it's not ornate, right? Start again. I didn't mean that. It's not solid, right? But it's very ornate, right? And it's almost as if it's very difficult to replicate this. Can you see the uniformity of this? It almost looks like it's been manufactured, right?
Yeah.
And Richard says, and this theory is as good as nobody. Have you noticed when we read through that, nobody come up with any theory at all? Well, this person's come up with some kind of theory. Yeah.
Astronomical.
There is no better theory out there, and no one talks about it. Nobody even talks about a theory for it. Think about it as an archaeologist, and he says, "I know I'm right." So there you go. Oh, and there's something else here. So there's 133 that have been found across Europe. And listen to this. There's talk in some articles of these being found along the ancient Silk Road. So not just associated with ancient Rome. If you consider they would be ideal for Eastern spice weighing and so on. Isn't that a great theory, folks? I thought it was. Anyway, I just thought nobody's talking now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck this out there, right? Margaret's had her little bit of a say, right? Drina's had her little bit of a say. Let's get the ladies to have a say, right? You know, I'm going to pick on now, not Andy, because Andy's not a lady. We're going to pick on Anne. So Anne, what springs to mind when you look at this? Come on, let's bully you. Tell us. Come on, Anne.
I don't know. It's just it's very mathematical. There are and I don't know what the knobs were on it for. You know, there's knobs as well as holes. Which
actually, if we go with the other images, you can see that they're slightly different designs. So here we go.
Are they there to keep from rolling over?
It might be. There's another one.
Oh yeah, that's very different.
That's very different, but there are holes in it. That one.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a collection there.
I wonder if the holes were for different things. If you got the one with the little holes in, you could have things like salt or sand or that kind of thing. And the big holes, more solid things, perhaps. I don't know.
And you can see the difference between the one on the left-hand side and the one on the back. And if we
Yes.
go,
Yeah.
it's difficult. The problem is when they chuck these things out, out there, they have a. Right. There's some. I think if that's an array of them. This you can see the differences in design from different parts of Europe. Right, and some of you get differences in hole size, but you can see that,
and even in patternings as well. They sort of the rings that they decorate with, as well as the holes that they do. There are different. They're almost in parts. They almost look like little faces, don't they? When standing a particular way up.
Yeah. It's a bit like a COVID virus to me.
Oh my God, he's right. He's right. It looks like the COVID virus.
Prediction.
No, actually, he's right. He's very right. But I think the one point we're going to go off this now. The one point to be made about this is that that they're very well made. There's very little sign of wear on them, right?
It looked to me like a measuring device.
Measuring device. Shut up, Rod.
Yes.
It looks like a measuring. Yes, a measuring device. Right. What we're gonna do. I'm gonna. Peter, you've really set yourself up for a fall now. See if you can get yourself out of it. I'm gonna leave you with an image, and you're gonna discuss it. All right. Now look at that one. It's you can see the different sizes. Right.
The holes
Peter,
are all different sizes. Yes.
You just speak for a minute. Just tell us what you think.
Well, I'm not sure what it measured, but to me, it's a measuring device for measuring coins or circles of some sort, and it could possibly be for round objects to pass through the hole, and depending upon the size of the hole, whether the round object can pass through it or not.
Yeah, something's got to pass through it, because that's what those those bobbles are, so that it lifts it off the ground.
Yep, that's it.
Whichever way it's sitting.
It's not a container, is it? It's not containing anything.
No, it's
too many
for measuring.
Yeah,
I agree.
Measuring device,
because they're all different sizes.
Yeah, different sizes of measuring. Okay, right. What we need now, is right. We've gone with that description, and we're going to go with: is it going to be used for measuring foodstuffs, or it could actually be used for measuring sticks?
Dowling.
Right.
Like dowling.
Dowling, yes, or anything like that. And actually, there is one person who's a trained engineer amongst us. David, anything that you would say?
Haven't a clue.
Oh, go on, Dave. Oh, okay. Okay, that's. But I'm glad Dave's honest. Right, your last word on this, Pete, because we're going to crack on.
Well, I can't be sure what they would use for measuring, but because they're all of a different size, they obviously there was a reason for them being of a different size, and the only reason is that they're used to measure something, whether they're used to measure the circumference of a circle or the diameter of a circle or whatever, I don't know, but I would say they're definitely used for measuring.
And it's not a rough circle either. It's a perfect circle.
It is, yes.
And actually, knowing Roman coinage, I do. You had the Pontuses, you had Cerstes, Denarises, Aureis, but the scale is slightly different. You know, it's not going to be for measuring coins. Put it that way. Right. Okay. We're going to
about a pound.
Now, Pete. Say again, Pete.
It weighs just about a pound.
Yeah, because we did. Was it 254 something? Grams, or whatever. So yeah. So now here we go. Somebody just playing around with the technology there. Don't know what the hell that means. Tinkering. Right. Okay. Then we're going to crack on. I want to get back onto the screen because I've got a little announcement that I want to make. So now I don't know if I've been thinking about this for a while, right? But now I'm now in a situation where I can get everything set back up again. And can you remember the lectures that we used to do in the past? I used to have backdrops and various different things, and I'm thinking, I have now. I'm going to invest. This is what I was going to say. You see, I was going to have a good old moan at Anne this week for not paying her money, right? As she pays it just before the class, so I couldn't have a moan at Anne, right? I can still have a moan at Margaret, who still hasn't paid, but don't worry about it. The reason why the monies were important this week was because I'm going to get a new camera, and I've got the sound system and all the rest of it, so I'm going to set everything back up again, and we're going to be back on the road. So we're going to have some more interactive stuff, and yes, so it's been about two. Shut up, Margaret. It's been 2.5 years, and we're going to get back to it. So I thought I would impress you all with that. And any donations that Peter could send towards buying the new technology, I'd really appreciate that, Pete. Right. Okay. We don't rise to it, Pete, please. Right. Okay. So we're gonna go on to this now, and yes. Positive road trip tonight. We're positive vibes. Right, okay. And do I know what I'm doing? Yeah, there we go. Oh, there it is. New release. Okay, let's do that. So we haven't got as many images to look through as usual, but I want us to look at Must Farm. And no, hang on a minute. I've got something that we're also going to be doing that as well today. Drina, we're going to be looking at the archaeology of the first kiss as well. So that you can educate people on that. So what we do, we go halfway through the images, then we come to that. So now for me, the Must Farm excavation is something that I've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks and months. And sooner or later, we will be diving into the Iron Age, which will be fine. Now, I think we're equipped to do the Iron Age, and so we'll be doing like another four things on the Bronze Age, and then we'll be going to the Iron Age. But Must Farm is a site that really puts the preservation of archaeology and how wonderful British archaeology is, and how much that we got really preserved. Leonard Cottrell once wrote about people being interested in the archaeology of Italy. Why go abroad when you've got the wealth of archaeology in our own country? And we cannot come up with more examples of how good British archaeology is and what has been found, particularly over the past 2 decades, not just down to Time Team. We've come across wonderful, really well preserved Roman remains up near Durham, which you've got walls that are over 2 meters tall, Roman mosaics at Rutland. We go all the way to Must Farm. And we look over the past decade, and we look at the excavations at Must Farm from the Bronze Age, bringing in Drina's mentioning earlier on about over in Ireland and the evidence that is being claimed in Ireland throughout all the ages. We go to the Ness of Brodgar, and we look about the amazing preservation of Neolithic remains in Orkney, and we don't need to go abroad anymore because the archaeology in this country is absolutely beautiful, and Must Farm is one of those examples. So, we should have come to this one first. So we will show you some images in a moment. Let's just show you where we are first. So what we're going to do, where we are we're there by the Wash, and we're there, right? And there's Peterborough on the left. Kings Lynn, Ely, the Fens, there you go. All the green stuff is where it used to be flooded, right? And the one thing that I will say is those people who get distracted about this global warming stuff must not let the archaeological evidence speak for itself, because what we have in Britain, we've got a very diverse landscape, where some landscape is being eroded away. When we look at the likes of some of the archaeology being exposed on the islands out by Orkney, and on the east coast, where we've got Norfolk, East Anglia, all lots of stuff is being eroded into the sea there. And when we go a little bit further northwest, we got this area that's all being clogged up and all bogged up, and all more land being created and all the rest of it. So it's an ever-moving, conjuncted mix of interface of archaeology. Oh God, that word, I used to use that word in my we used to use that word in archaeology in the university all the time. The interface of archaeology. Anyway, let's just go back to those. Let's just go back to the text. So first things first, what we had obviously near Peterborough in 2011, the Cambridge Archaeological Unit, University of Cambridge, in collaboration with Forterra, which is, terra, as in earth, there you go, began to unearth a series of extraordinary finds. That's an organization, Forterra. What we found, what we learned, and what we know about the history, geology, and archaeology of the area can be explored in Bronze Age River, right? So that's the name of a project. So that then the Bronze Age River project brought us in to the project that was the Bronze Age settlement. And as you can tell, I'm getting really excited with this. Thanks to funding from Historic England and Forterra, in August 2015, we began a new project, a Bronze Age settlement. And this is a building development scheme that put money into the archaeology. This was a 10-month excavation of a settlement at the site that was destroyed by fire, causing it to collapse into the river channel, preserving the contents in situ. Information on our progress and discoveries can be found in Bronze Age Settlement, which is associated with the Must Farm website, and a book that they've just published. This is Cambridge University have just published, and a Cambridge Archaeological Unit associated with the Must Farm archaeological site, right? So this is something that you may not have seen. This is what we believe that the site looked like. Now, we didn't excavate all of these buildings. They only excavated part of these buildings because only part of the site was being quarried and worked on, associated with Forterra. And then obviously the archaeologists actually coming onto the site to be paid. And the work was £1.1 million went into this, and obviously lots more has been gone into the site since. And it was an absolute brilliant scheme of works when it was in the news in late 2015, going into 2016. And one thing excitingly about this site is that not only is the archaeology so well preserved, as we will see a little bit today, and we'll see in 2 weeks' time, it's so well preserved. In a way, it challenges the narrative that says that we're not going to find anything like this ever again in British archaeology, when in fact we will, because this says, this is only found, what is it, not even a decade ago, right? I know they've been working on stuff in that area since 2011, and obviously you've got Flag Fen and Fengate, and the Whittlesea sites associated with Peterborough that we've already looked at, but it's all likelihood this has been found by complete accident. It's in all likelihood that we will find many more sites like this within our British archaeological context. And I'm not going to say it, but I will. you never know. There might be something even better preserved than Must Farm, and that's sacrilegious, right? I don't know how more better preserved than you can get from Must Farm. Maybe what we're going to do is we're going to dig people out who are actually talking and telling us of the history. That's the only better that you can get from Must Farm. But I'm sure with time we might actually find sites like Must Farm in regards to the Roman period. We've got very close evidence to Must Farm associated with, say, the excavations at Vindolanda, but you never know. What we might find is we might find that the Roman Must Farm equivalent somewhere else in Britain. So there's always this archaeology out there to be found. And again, keep watching the news and keep being excited by the information that they're putting out there. Right. So now, what we're going to do now is we're going to look at a couple more images. But what are we seeing on the screen? What is this screen actually telling us? So what we've got, hang on, we've got a village that's actually within a watery domain. It's not, the water's not very deep. The buildings are placed within this watery realm. On each house is an individual platform within a watery area within a palisade. This is what this is. So that's a palisade in front. There's obviously water behind, and then each individual building is on its own little platform, as you can see. And you've got access to it by a walkway. You can get to it by canoes. Why are they building in this way? Well, to be honest with you, building in this way has lots of advantages. Let's talk about some of the advantages. When you go to toilet, it could just go in the water, right? You've got flowing water, so it's not going to be polluted, right? That's one thing. You can fish directly off it, so you can get your food. You're surrounded by fowl. You've got ducks. You can have buildings. That building, for example, there, if that's a smaller building, which it is, you might be able to store some animals to winter in there. You've obviously got the advantage that this is a natural defensive area from foxes, from the likes of wolves, from the likes of bears, and humans, right, that might wish to take what you've got. Other examples that, to be honest with you, the Andy knows more about this than me, but water has different qualities, and there's an insulative quality to having water around you, in a weird roundabout way. And when you think about that, why do people spend lots of times in boats? So, I'm just chucking these things out there. And then when you come to the archaeology, when this landscape of archaeology ended up in the water, it was so unbelievably well preserved, And the other thing as well is why isn't this all built on a platform like the likes of Flag Fen? Why like a big sort of platform, or why isn't this like some of those lake villages out in Mexico, or some of those lake villages out in Bolivia and so on? You've got one big platform, right? It's not on a platform. It's very different. There's water between these buildings and little walkways. That is very, very different. That is a sense of independence, a sense of individuality, the sense of space, the sense of access is not all the way round. In other words, there's only one way in and there's one way out, right? With some of them, you can see the one in that one there, there's only one way into that one, right? That one there, if you go into that one there, you can go to the other one and then it links to the other one. But that one is completely independent. I think that's really interesting. But there's no other way in other than the walkway, right? And that is really interesting. They again, back to that point, they could have had a platform which linked all of these buildings together. And I think that might say something about the water. when you've got a platform can be completely flooded and, you know, your house is flooded. But in this scenario, if one house gets flooded, another house doesn't get flooded because it might be taller. And so on. There's all different aspects to look at this. Anyway, let's look at another image. And there is the archaeology. And you can see that it's extremely complex indeed, very, very complex. And if we go back to the plan, you can clearly see that the buildings that we're looking at are these here. We've got 1, 2, 3, and that one there, that little small one as well. So this is actually showing the circles, the yellow circles building 1, 2, 3, and 4. The buildings, and it's indicating that the fourth one is trapezoidal shape, but I think that's for another reason. But these are all shown on a plan as circular, all four of them. But the one thing that you can see is that as these buildings decay and under the water, because they were burned, these buildings were burned. And then obviously they went under the water. There was some decaying, and the muds and the silts and the peats covered it, and it was preserved forever. You can see how complex that plan was off the top of my head, right? Off the top of my head, without looking at any images, right? So what did they find at this site? They found timbers, extremely well preserved, as if the timbers had just, you know, as if the building had been burnt down 2 weeks before, right? As if these buildings had been burnt down 2 weeks before. What else? We've got the last meals in bowls, which we're going to see in 2 weeks, right? With the contents in. The last meals in the bowls with the contents in, right? You've got the wattle surrounds of the buildings. You've got all the roof timbers. We know the materials that they used on the roofs. We've got examples of their tools. You know, one thing that we don't have is much in the way of human remains. So obviously these people left the site for some reason. And I think for once we're not going to postulate why they left, because sometimes we postulate too much. And let's talk about the fact that the buildings were on fire. And they ended up very well preserved in the muds and the waters below. And interestingly enough, when the buildings, now this is something that is lost in the translation, right? So let's just do a bit of sketching, right? So you set light to that one there, you set light to that one, that one, that one. All these are set light, right? All these buildings are set light, right? But they're contained within this surrounding palisade, so nothing can wash away. So that means that the archaeology is contained. Now, you can imagine that if there was a fire and there was no palisade around the outside, lots of the materials and timbers would be washed away, but they weren't. They were all contained in one spot, right? And that is a really important thing of the archaeology that they don't tell you about, or I'm not sure that they tell you about, not have read about it. So there it is. So what you have part, not all of it, but you have part of the excavation there, and it's extremely so well preserved. And again, preserved in these muds, the silts, the peaty-like landscape. And I got to be honest with you, we are so lucky in this day and age to have the archaeology so well preserved. And just in a bit of an explanation of what we're seeing on the image. Now, what we've got, if I draw in here, well, let's draw in. So what we've got this external palisade, right? And these represent the timbers that supported the building, right? Now I'm going to say something about these timbers that supported the building, right? The building that I'm actually the building that I'm actually in now to present this tonight, and I've presented it for months in here, right? The timbers to support this building are actually quite thin. It's like it's like a load of matchsticks supporting about 4 tons of weight, right? And exactly the same as you see in there. You don't really need hefty timbers to support a building. Once you've got all for this building here, there's if I can work, I've never really calculated this. There's about 30 uprights in this building, right? Which all of that, it counterbalances the weight and it supports the building. Exactly what we're talking about there. And as you can see, as the water's flowing to this building, the timbers are being trapped up against this palisade, right? So they're not washing away. So if we go back to the previous image, you can actually see that there's lots of timbers that are actually building up against this wall, right? And they're not washing away. And actually, you can actually see my point. There's not many timbers outside, right? They're mainly inside, so they're mainly contained. So we're very, very lucky to what's going on with this site. And you know, you're looking at this and you're thinking, it's almost as if they're offering us a message from the past. And this is so there may have been dozens of sites like this, and the fate of those sites was exactly the same as we're actually seeing with Must Farm, right? And but I think we're so lucky to get this. This is the Pompeii. This is the Bronze Age Pompeii of Britain. So amazing. And people online are saying, "Love your content, chaps. Just popped in. Busy times. I'll try and keep up." And somebody said, "Amazing." So this is all so perfect. And look at that. Now, this is a slightly different reconstruction, right? And it's slightly different in that it doesn't seem to have a palisade on the opposite side, which you've got with the other illustration. And we're not going to know because they haven't been able to excavate the whole site, right? And I think this is a work in progress, but you can exactly see what I mean there. You can really see how this all works, how this all functions, and how this all goes together. And there's people on the roofs. Actually, I would say that there wouldn't be people on the roofs because yeah, I wouldn't put anyone on my roof, even though there's 9 layers on the roof and turf. But what you can see is you can clearly see how this is functioning and the connection with the land as well. And at night you would take your sheep and your cattle, maybe placing them into one of the buildings or some kind of stockade outside the structure, but everything would be kept really safe and really, really secure. And I always do like reconstructed buildings like this, and you can see that you've got canoes, wooden. That's right. So that canoe in front of us, the one in the foreground, that's one piece of wood. That's just one. That's one trunk, right? And that's obviously half a trunk just above it as well. And there has been lots of theories what happened to this site. You know, they felt threatened and they set light to it all and left. But they left everything behind. They could all chucked everything in canoes and left. My theory might be that they just set light to it because they didn't want to use it anymore. You could think of many different ways, but one thing I think this conversation that me and Andy have had a couple of times, and it just seems to be me and Andy with this, that when people come up with theories, they like to masculinize things. Oh, right. Well, we're going to do all these the buildings at this site. It was burnt. It was burnt deliberately, right? We don't know if it was burnt deliberately. There may have been some kind of forest fire and the buildings went up, right? it could have been an accidental fire, because the bowls had their last meals on the tables and stuff, and they ended up in the waters down below. And this is the thing. When we think about this, you've got a bowl. Think about this. Just get your hands out in front of you, and put a bowl in your hands, right? So, you put the bowl on the table, right? And there's a fire, and then the bowl falls through the table, falls through the burnt floor, and then settles in the muds down below. And I'm thinking there's something really weird about that. And yeah, there's something very strange. It's or maybe the bowls were on the floor with the food in and deliberately placed on the floor, which means that they didn't leave in a hurry because they were under threat. There was something more planned about this, right? One thing. Can I just I like doing anecdotal stories. I'm going to tell you a little story now, right? We're going to change the image. I'm going to tell you a little story, right? And I understand this now. I didn't understand it back in the day. When we went to the island of Hoy this one time, we were shown a building which was used in the Second World War. And it was the administrative building on the island of Hoy in Orkney in the Second World War. And in 1945, obviously it's the end of the war. 1946, everybody's being demobbed, and all the records were left in the building, right? All the military records, all the supply records, all documents were left there, right? And this guy collected all these documents together, and nobody wanted these records. So before the guy died, he set light to every single piece of paper, right? Because nobody was interested. Now, that would be one of the most important records about the Second World War in Orkney, but it was all set alight, right? But that guy decided to set a light to it, right? And the reason why I'm using that analogy is that you don't need great tragedy and threat to just get rid of things. You might just feel that it's the right thing to do, right? That you set light to a village. And we see this with the Amazon basin. This is one of the things that goes through this story, why it was set alight. And I just thinking, well, just get over it. It happened, right? It's not as dramatic as it seems. When we go to the Terra Preta site of the Amazon basin, where people just have a perfect village and they just leave it there and it all rots away and they move somewhere else, right? They didn't set light to it, or maybe they did. But sometimes in history, we want to make it more dramatic than it actually was. So the positioning of the Must Farm site is really, really interesting, and the preservation of the archaeology is really, really interesting. It's sometimes when we think about the Must Farm site, we think that it's the only thing that they ever built in Bronze Age Britain that was like it, but that's not exactly true. There are many other locations that you might actually find such similar archaeology, like Ireland, like the likes of Somerset. You have obviously got the examples at Must Farm. You've obviously got further up north places like Scarborough, associated with the likes of Starcar, and you think about all these different sites, and you think, well, there might be similar sites still out there that we haven't found yet, right? And particularly in Ireland. Again, getting a sense of this, and one of the things that we've got to be very wary of is you're looking at King's Lynn there, you're looking at Ely. What if a village like this survives to the right of Ely, to the east of Ely, or to the south of Ely, or maybe immediately to the south of that red box, which is the Must Farm site and the Flag Fen site? What about a site up near King's Lynn, right? What I'm trying to get at, folks, is that there could be dozens, and if not hundreds, of these sites within what we now refer to as the Fens. And this is one of a number of locations in Britain that might have similar sites such as this. When we think about the likes of Lindo Moss, and we think about Peat Marsh, we think, in the Midlands, there might be similar sites like this. What I've got to say is I'm not trying to undervalue the value of the site. The site is hugely, massively, unbelievably important, but it holds out hope for people saying, when the, like Flag Fen, it's all drying out, like the Somerset Levels, the Iron Age village sites down there is all drying out, it's all being lost, right? There are other examples, and maybe one day, and I think this is linking in what Margaret said earlier on about the scrolls that are associated with Plato. And we've got these unique documents. Well, they are unique, but there might be other documents out there still preserved. And the one thing I need to remind you again about, there's a link as well with Pompeii and Herculaneum, Stabae and Oplontis, that those sites were known about, right? But there's sites in history that we don't know about that may have equally been lost, like Akrotiri on the island of Thera associated with the Minoan civilization, right? So there's lots to play for out there, and whole civilizations still yet to be found. Again, getting this sort of link in here. And now we're going to have a little bit of a story time, and then we're going to do more Must Farm after the break. So here we go, a little bit of a story time. Now the wonder of the kiss is a most beautiful thing. And the wonder of a kiss can bring us to people that we end up staying with for the rest of our lives. And sometimes you can have a kiss off somebody and you don't want to go near them again, right? So this is really interesting. Last year they were talking about evidence of the first kiss, right? And it is a very, why are we even doing this? But I think sometimes we take things for granted as modern day human beings, right? We got everything, and how did these things start? Why did people start kissing? Humanity. So this has been released in the past few weeks. Humanity's earliest recorded kiss adds new twist to history of locking lips. So there we go. A clay model from Mesopotamia dating to 1,800 years BC, showing a nude couple intertwined on a bed, engaged in sex and kissing.
Oh,
shut up, Rod. So wrote, and here we go. The meeting of lips is the most perfect, the most divine sensation given to human beings, the supreme limit of happiness. So wrote Guy de Maupassant in 1882. The kiss. He wasn't alone in his flowery thoughts about kissing. Romantic kisses have long been celebrated in songs, poems, and stories, commemorated in art and film. Do you know what, right? A film kiss it is a wonderful thing, right? And I'm not going to say any more. No one knows for sure when humans first figured out that mouth-to-mouth contact could be used for romance and erotic pleasure. But scientists reported last year in May 2023 that people were locking lips at least 4,500 years ago. The findings published in journal Science pushed back the history of the practice by about 1,000 years. And how do we know? Because looking at tooth enamel gives away the clue that people were kissing. That's one thing anyway. And obviously illustrations like this. Kissing has been practiced much longer than perhaps a lot of us realized, or at least had thought about. Have anyone ever thought about those first kisses? Thousands of clay tablets from Mesopotamia survive to the present. Their references to kissing shed light on romantic intimacy in the ancient world. Researchers have now told us, and last year, this fascinating case study adds to a growing body of scientific research on romantic sexual kissing and helps us understand kissing origins in human social behavior and in intimate life specifically.
It's
romantic and sexual. What's that?
It's two girls.
do what?
It looks
No,
like
it's
two girls. Maybe a mother and a daughter. They've both got bosoms.
They got the what?
They've both got bosoms
Oh,
and long hair.
Maybe the man's overweight. They can look like they have bosoms then, can't they?
man boobs, yeah. And they had all long hair then, didn't they? So,
Stop scratching your back. Oh my God. And I gotta be honest with you, I was gonna say about Pete, but we won't go there. Romantic and sexual. Look, I have seen Pete sat on a bed and he's got yeah. Anyway, romantic and sexual behavior experiences are part of larger patterns of human social behavior. Understanding how these behaviors express themselves, change and evolve helps us better understanding who we are today. So in other words, when you kiss somebody, when you kiss your Idris next, Drina, right? Just whisper as you're kissing him. This is the most ancient way of showing my love for you, Idris. Yeah, but we've since found out that he's got 3 children and he's married, and you're cheating, right? In 1882, when de Maupassant wrote his heartfelt descriptions of loving kisses in an ancient context, he probably wasn't thinking too hard about how kissing arose in the first place amid civilizations of the past. But the origins of this most divine sensation are deeply rooted in human history and evolution, and there is likely much about its role and significance in ancient cultures that is yet to be discovered. Now, oh God, this is bloody wearing me out. Passionate kisses. Previously, the oldest recorded evidence of kissing was attributed to the Vedas, a group of Indian scriptural texts that date back to around 3,500 years ago, the foundation of the Hindu religion. One of the volumes, the Rig Veda, describes people touching their lips together. Erotic kissing. This is then we start to think about the Kama Sutra a little bit later on. Erotic kissing was also featured in great detail in another ancient Indian text, a guide to sexual pleasure dating to the 200 years AD. Yes, the Kama Sutra. Modern scholars therefore concluded that romantic kisses likely originated in India. So, Roger, you can thank people in India for your ability to kiss today, Rog.
Okay,
but
I'll take
amongst...
what to help.
What's that, Rog?
Well,
yeah,
I'll tell that in case she questions it, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Something.
Yeah, shut up, Rog. Shut up, Rog. But amongst Assyriologists, people who Assyriologists who study Mesopotamia, Assyria, it was widely known that clay tablets from the region mentioned kissing much earlier than ancient India. However, outside highly specialized academic circles, few knew that such evidence existed. In other words, they've now got evidence for Mesopotamia, not to 3,800 years ago, but there's evidence that people were kissing 4,500 years ago, and that's a fact from Mesopotamian tablets. As Assyriologists, they studied cuneiform writing, and in cuneiform, in which characteristics are pressed into tablets using cut triangular reeds, were invented around 5,200 years ago. Early cuneiform was written by scribes, and these scribes recorded the very moments when people started kissing. Can you imagine, Drina, to set the scene? We've got clay, right? And we've got little stamps that we're pressing into the clay, Drina, and you look over to me, I look over to you, and we think, oh, should we invent kissing, right? And we, yeah, it goes all over the place, and we start kissing. We go wild.
Ooh, Drina.
Drina, we go wild. Drina, my God, what a hussy. In one of these myths, we get this description that these gods had intercourse and then kissed.
Oh,
that's clear evidence.
Glasses are steaming up.
One cup of tea.
I'm nearly finished, folks. Within a few centuries, writing had become more widespread across Mesopotamia, and they were all at it. With that came more records of daily life, with mentions of kisses traded by married couples and unmarried people as an expression of desire. How dare we? Some examples caution about the perils of kissing. To kiss a priestess sworn to a form of celibacy was believed to deprive the kisser of the ability to speak. What it would be. Can you imagine, Roger? There's this beautiful woman in front of you, and you start kissing her, and she's obtained your soul, Richard, by you being the first person to kiss this beauty. Another prohibition addressed the impropriety of kissing in the street. How dare we? That, yes, Sheriff Rog, that this warning had to be made at all, hinted that kissing was a very everyday sort of practice. So, in other words, even before they started putting this into the cuneiform tablets, right, kissing was endemic. Kissing is the most mentioned topic, but it is attested regularly. They do chuck it in there now and again.
Well,
Don't talk, just kiss. Here we go. Listen to this. Humans aren't the only animals that kiss. So do our closest primates, like chimpanzees, like bonobos monkeys. Kissing. How do you know about this, Margaret?
I'm
For
just
bonoboses.
looking it up here. Because I thought I'd seen chimpanzees kissing.
Hang on. I'm supposed to be doing a lecture. You can't be looking at other stuff. Kissing is part of the bonobos's frequent sexual play. It is important that romantic kissing evolved in primates as a way to evaluate fitness in a potential mate through chemical cues communicated in saliva or breath. That's why we started kissing. It was the saliva and breath we needed to obtain to see if that was a pure mate that we needed it for the rest of our lives. Or in Drina's case, that's something else. But kissing isn't all sociable fun and pleasure. Listen to this, folks. One less enjoyable side effect of kissing in humans, and this is it, folks, is the spread of infectious diseases. Another study in July 2022 by more than 24 researchers from Europe, UK, and Russia stated that the rapid rise of a lineage of the herpes simplex virus could be caught by kissing 5,000 years ago. So, in other words, by looking at 5,000 years ago, we can see in the wanton DNA and the contextualness of seeing human remains that herpes was passed through kissing 5,000 years ago. And before that, nobody kissed because they didn't have herpes. Potentially linked to the introduction of a new cultural practices such as the advent of sexual romantic kissing following waves of migration into Europe from Eurasian grasslands. So in other words, Rog, your kissing is down to people in India bringing their kissing skills over. It's said.
Yeah, I came across the herpes thing then, yeah.
It's said that romantic kissing became acceptable in Bronze Age Europe, and not because of migration alone. It's more likely, they wrote, that the practice of kissing was already at least passingly familiar to people in Europe, because it was common in Mesopotamia and possibly in other parts of the ancient world and wasn't just restricted to India. It must have been known in a lot of ancient cultures. Bloody hell. Kissing then and now. Oh, unlike the kisses shared between parents and children, which are thought to be ubiquitous to humans across time and geography, romantic kissing are not common everywhere. Now, this is really, really interesting. So obviously a peck on the cheek, but actually kissing the lips. Listen to this. In September 2015, they did a survey of 168 modern cultures worldwide, and I think this is the crutch now. Finding that only 46% of those societies practice kissing that were sexual or romantic, and I think it's really interesting that that we're seeing that 46% of the world's population didn't have lip-to-lip kissing, and I find that difficult to believe. But obviously, they're looking at this about various diseases and how diseases were spread. Such kissing, the authors. Shut up, Rog. Such kissing, the authors reported, was far less common in foraging communities and was more likely to be found in societies that had distinctive social classes like Dreena's, with more complex societies being more likely to kiss in this manner. So in other words, when you're out in a field, harvesting your grain, you didn't kiss. But in towns and cities, you did. Kissing could be said to be a taboo. It's not a universal experience across all cultures, that they're saying. And finally, they're saying that the research now is a reminder that widespread kissing that we see today, represented in Western society, was not always to be seen in the past. It's also possible that if kissing in the ancient world was more widely distributed than once thought, it was perhaps more universal than in modern times. It opens some questions that are interesting for future research. And I think the last point with that, what they've done, they've turned it on its head. They've said, actually, maybe there was a stage that people kissed more in the past because it meant that some of the herpal diseases, some of the other diseases that can actually pass in the saliva, right, have spread more potently through human populations, right? Some of those diseases not spread as much as these days because people are not as ill these days. I don't know what we're looking at, but I went to have my bloods done once, and I had a lip sore, and they said, right, you can't have your bloods done because it's likely that you've got herpes. I thought I'd add that in there. Right. On that note, Rog, we're going to take a break. Right, let's see if there's any questions. I don't think anyone knows what to say, do they? Hang on a minute. Why have we got... Hang on, stop a minute. Why have we got two hands?
Oh,
Two hands.
No.
I haven't got two hands.
No.
I've got two hands on my screen.
Ooh.
Well.
Oh my God, Andy's turned into an hand.
No, I'm still down as Andy.
I've only got one hand.
I got to take a photograph of this and show you. Hang on a minute. Hang on. Hang on. I got to. Hang on. Right. I've done a screen share. I'll show you after the break. Right, Dreena, anything you want to say, love?
No, thank you. No.
Right. What about you, Rog?
Yes.
What? No. Margaret.
Don't Eskimos rub noses?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got a cold? Oh.
Right. Okay then. David.
No, thank you.
Right. Who have we got next? Peter.
Not again.
Pete.
Oh, has it gone?
You.
I haven't got a Pete on my screen.
No.
I've got his name.
Got his name, yeah.
Oh, I haven't got that.
Oh.
Perhaps he's making himself a cup of coffee or something.
I think he got embarrassed
How
by the
strange.
kitchen. What I wanted to ask, when Pete used to go and meet all these women off board the ship, right? Did he actually used to kiss them? All right, no, that's too much information. Andy.
No, nothing.
Okay.
The concept of relationships is quite interesting, isn't it? Because I was talking to a guy ages ago about I like to look for signs of intelligence in early life, and he said, what about love? And I thought, oh, bloody hell, that's even harder. So kissing, interesting.
Do I look like one of those characters from was it the Marx Brothers? Who do I, one of the weird things?
Bit
Yeah,
wild.
You know what I mean?
Bit wild.
Yeah. And Anne, anything from you, love?
Well, a couple of things. The fire, when we were looking at the Must Farm, and the fire, and I mean, there must have been, one thinks occasionally, lightning would cause something like that, so that it was not, something, and whether that possibly could have been a problem.
Absolutely, yeah.
And another thing I was thinking of when
Yeah.
when people move, and we've done several societies where people just move away. I wonder whether sometimes sickness could do that. Everybody's falling ill and they think, oh, this is a dangerous place, and move away. I wonder whether that comes into it.
Yeah, good one.
Seem to have left in a hurry, don't they? Because they'd left cooking utensils, bowls with food in.
Well, that was fire. That was the fire one. But we were also looking at why people moved away anyway. I think that came up in it. And we have done that in various places around the world, haven't we? In other lectures, and we never talked about we didn't think. Well, I didn't think about sickness. I don't think we ever discussed it. But that's the sort of thing that could make people want to move away, because they don't want to catch things. They think there's something wrong with the place.
Yeah,
well, it was only just over a year old. It wasn't a very old village.
Yeah, but sickness could happen anywhere, couldn't it?
So something happened.
But anyway, it was fire. It would have been that. Wouldn't have been that anyway. It's fire. But that's what I was thinking about lightning, because there must have been lightning strikes which cause problems for people, mustn't there?
Do they know
there's a point. There's a point here. There's a point here that back to what I said. You've got whole bowls, right? What I was trying to get at, right?
Yeah.
You've got bowls of food, right?
Yeah.
That have ended up sat nicely comfortable in the muds down below, and all the food is still in the bowl, right? And you're thinking, well, if that had been on a table, right, it would have tipped up and the contents would have gone everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, well, the only way that could actually happen is if the bowls were actually on the floor, right? And if the bowls were on the floor, they'd been placed on the floor and not on the table, right?
Yeah.
So it's a deliberate act that the bowls are, But
that's assuming they'd have tables. A lot of simple folks eat on the floor. They sit cross-legged, or and that, which is another thing. It wouldn't necessarily mean they all had tables at that time, would it?
No.
We've got evidence that people had tables and
we do.
But hang on a minute, we got evidence. It doesn't mean to say that they had any here at all, because if you look at Japanese society, they basically So in other words, what I've done is fallen into the trap that they had tables, but if they didn't have tables, then the bowls would be on the floor anyway.
Yes.
There's different ways. What I'm trying to get at with Must Farm is don't get too excited over the fact that it's been set alight. But I like the idea, and Margaret saying, it's only been, it's only about you're a bit old. I like the idea about what you put in here, and about disease. And the thing is, when you've got a disease which is quite potent, the one thing that you want to do is leave. And then you want to set light to the whole thing to get, and there's not much in the way of any animals dying or burning, so they took the valuable things away with them.
Do they know what time of the year it was?
But they would have gone quickly, wouldn't they? Because you would have thought if they were going to set fire to it, they'd have ate the dinner first.
I think
they wouldn't
have left the food in the bowls. The
reason would be the cooking, mistakes made like in London and all that.
It could have been
that.
People
weren't so careful, and things, embers go up and into the thatch or whatever else.
Perhaps the majority of the people were out working in the fields when it caught fire.
But there is one problem: they're all individual buildings. They're not all going to set alight.
Well, it'll spread across the roof like embers take fire, didn't it? Embers carry fire.
Then again, there is one thing: this is a marshy, boggy landscape in the winter months. In the summer months, all those grasses and studs go off. All those grasses, all those reeds would go up like a furnace. It would just whip through.
I thought they'd done a forensic analysis. Got some fire experts in to see where it had started. What we are going to do, we're going to I wasn't going to look at that evidence this week, but I think I might actually put that in. I'm going to have to
I'm gonna have to do some. I'm gonna have to do some extra work on that quick. So I might actually put that one in. Right. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna have a break. It's 9:05 for God's sake. So we'll have a 10-minute break and we'll come back.
Carl, I'm going to switch off and see if I can reboot and see if I can get my camera working. So I'll need to get back in later.
Well, we're going to be okay. We'll be out of action for 10, 12,
Yeah, no
30
worries.
minutes.
I'll
Okay,
pack
we'll see you in a bit.
9, Carl. Yeah.
What's that, Rog?
I'll pack in at 9:30 on a full day yesterday, so I can get me tippet.
Well,
Okay.
yeah. Well, I can't hang out on the red light district in Amsterdam like you, Rog. So we'll
That's right.
so we'll see. We'll be back soon. Go on, get yourself sorted out, folks.
I got me tea ready.
Yeah, well, right, now shut up.
Wow. Yeah. Oh.
I'll go and get an oxo.
What's that, Pete?
I said I'll go and get an oxo.
What do you want to go and get an oxo for?
What?
The drink.
Yeah, well, I know. Shut up, Pete.
Oh. Oh. Goodness. Amen. Like. Oh.
Roger, has anyone ever told you that you're a knob?
Oh, me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know that. Oh, that's life.
Somebody called me a knob the other day. I said I must be related to that Roger.
Yeah, don't cock things up. I know, yeah.
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 Rog.
That's not good. Just take it.
Well, I take it like a man, Rog.
I can say in Russia the men kiss on the lips there. What about that?
Well, I tell you what, Rod, right? You can kiss a Russian man, but I'm not, okay?
All right, fine. Yeah, fine. That's okay. Then.
Yeah, no, it's not okay, Roger. You're asking me to do something I don't want to do.
No, I don't want to do it, but they do it. They say, why is that though? What's the reason? You know?
Yeah, but I gotta be honest with you, Roger, right? I'm not. I don't want to know why Russian men kiss each other.
Oh. Then they kill each other.
Yeah, but look, Roger, it's not something I want to know about.
Well, it's life. You've got to face up to it, Carl, and see what it's all about.
Roger, look. I'm sorry. I'm not facing up to the fact that I'm not kissing a Russian bloke.
Okay, fine. Leave it there.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have even mentioned it in the first place.
Well, it just came to my mind then when you said about, kissing and thinking.
Roger, right? What? Why would you even think about kissing a Russian man? I don't want to kiss a Russian man. It's not part of my makeup.
They're killing each other, so what the hell's that? That's what I got to work out. You've got to comb your hair as well, Carl. Got it wild.
Yeah, but it's so Roger, right? What type of things go through your head? 1 minute you talk about kissing a Russian bloke. Yeah, you shut up now, aren't you? Good.
Who can?
I wouldn't want to kiss Vladimir Putin.
Still disappeared though.
I've been to Russia and I have kissed a Russian woman.
Oh, for God's sake!
That's
not the same, is it?
I know about a bloke. The truce chop and one and the other kiss each other. Next minute they're plotting to kill each other. Some lovely Russian women around, fine, yeah. But
Russian people are very friendly. They're nice people.
Yeah, well, the trouble with Russia, Steve, is the Kremlin.
Well, it's everywhere. It's the bloody politicians, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's the bloody politicians that do all the problem.
Exactly. Everybody else tries to make friends.
Yep.
I know.
Yeah. My stepfather was Russian. Yeah. He was called Vladislav Odachinsky.
It's Stalinism that's still there. Terrible. Still, one day they'll be kicked out. The people will have enough because it's a lovely country, rich, old people. But
I've had enough of this conversation. I really bloody have.
Go ahead, Carl.
Having been to Russia, I was in Odessa, and there was two of us sat at a table. This was way back in the 50s, and there was a flower vase in the middle of the table. We were in a bar, and we said, "I wonder if they got microphones in that vase of flowers." Yeah. We'll plot to blow up the Lenin, which was their nuclear icebreaker, and we'll plot to blow the Lenin up to see what happened.
Oh.
But nothing happened. So
Yeah.
No, but
we could have got bloody shot for that. But there we are.
Yeah.
But then I went to Archangel, and we were in Archangel for 10 days or more. And you went to a seaman's mission. And that was your go ashore place. And I said, "Well, can we get a football match?" And they said, "Oh yeah, we'll get you a football match. You get a team, and we'll get you a match." And so I contacted a few other ships, and we got a team together, and we played a football match with them. And at the end of the match, we went into their local club, and they put us on a table full of alcohol, full of bottles of alcohol. Oh, very, very nice it was too.
You remember anything of it?
Oh yes.
The vodka. Oh.
No, didn't have vodka. We had beer. We had some beers.
Oh, but that was what coke. Oh, well, very nice. Well, it's
Richard,
something.
Peter, don't tell them about the Albanians that you met.
Oh,
Yeah, they were rowing across the Adriatic
Who were?
from Albania, and we were anchored off, waiting to go into Venice. And this ship was rowing across, and they were gradually coming up. And so we said, "Oh, come, where are you going?" They said, "Oh, we're going to Italy. We're going to claim asylum." I said, "Well, come up here, and we'll give you a meal." And we put them in the sick bay in the beds, and so they had a bed for the night, and we took them into Venice, and then put them ashore in Venice, where they were then looked after. And I'm not sure what the Italians did to them. But then I was having my car washed here in Barry, and I said, "Well, where are you chaps from?" "Albania." "Oh," I said, "I met some Albanians and we helped them." And so they washed my car for free.
That's good.
Do you know what?
Yeah.
I'm going to try that.
especially if you say something in Albanian, how would you do it, something?
Oh,
I think the world over, people are nice. I think most ordinary people are nice. It's
They
just,
are. They
and I
are.
don't know how we voted such terrible politicians that cause all the trouble.
I know. We have
That's
enough
how it
trouble with
seems.
half of them. Go, someone.
Look at Adolf Hitler. He was voted in.
Who? Hitler was voted in, let alone everybody else. I mean, he was a popular vote, wasn't he?
It,
I mean,
90% of the population voted him in.
Yeah, exactly. So what I'm saying is that we get duped by awful people to vote for him, I think.
That's right. Well, he spread a good story, didn't he? He said how marvelous
don't
the
most
Germans
politicians promise you all sorts, and
yeah, absolutely,
and they have dastardly
But
deeds
it's
ready
not
to do.
helpful putting them down too much.
The weird thing was, right, is that he promised everyone would be in work, and everyone was in work. He promised the economy would get back on, and it was.
Yeah.
He promised that all these things he promised, and the weird thing was, he gave the country everything, every single promise, but then he went too far by invading Poland, and that was it.
Yeah, yeah.
He was a bad military man, like Putin is.
Who's what?
He couldn't win a ping pong match up on his own.
I don't think. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of bad
country.
things about people that our government doesn't like, but I think the West is as bad. All the politicians over the world, they're all no
They're
good.
all on the lead.
You know, and even if they're on our side, it doesn't make them good somehow.
No, they're all on the make. But still, let's hope they'll end someone. Right,
you know, when I was a politician, my party would say, right, when you're standing for Parliament, you've got to do this, you've got to say this, and I said, I'm not saying any of this, right? Oh yeah, but you've got to say that you represent. No, I'm not saying any of this, right? The thing is, I used to get stuff done, but unfortunately, when you upset people, there was always a consequence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except if you're in charge. It seems to me that you've got all these people causing trouble and wars all over the world, and there is no consequence for them. Even it would seem to me the world justice system, the courts can't do anything to them. These people we vote in that are all a trouble, and whatever side they're on.
That's right.
Yeah, you only got to look at Trump.
Justice.
Yeah, there's Trump, there's Putin, there's Xi Jinping. There's Rishi Sunak. There's Biden. They're all up to all sides. It's awful.
Look at Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. You know, he was a bit corrupt.
Yeah.
Don't trust anyone who talks to trees. Right, now I've got Andy's.
I've been going around feeling trees this last week. Just does that count? I've never done it before, but I've been wandering around feeling the young leaves, and they're so
I thought you were hugging the trees.
Delightful trees, not hugging them, touching the leaves. They're so.
Right.
At this time of the year, they're so soft, and They feel very different than they usually feel.
Right. Can I just say something? Right, it's spring, right? Everyone seems to be erotically charged today. Adrena can't get enough of it, right? And as for Margaret, look at her face. She's got a cheeky face on her. Right, okay.
Now, you were talking about kissing earlier.
Oh,
What is-
look, can I just say one thing, right? I want to get on with the lecture, right? You could talk about kissing. It went off with me and Roger talking about kissing a Russian bloke, right? I have got no interest in kissing a Russian bloke. I am not interested at all, right? Peter, you do your bit and we're going to crack on.
Well, when you get up close and comfortable with somebody and doing as you do, then you're face to face, and the natural thing is to kiss.
I mean, if
It's a
we
perfectly
rubbed
natural thing
ears,
to do.
if we rubbed ears instead, you'd never get anywhere, would you?
No, that's true. No, earache.
I tell you what. Having a woman in your life is nothing but bloody earache.
Oh,
Oh yeah, I
that's
bet.
shocking.
I had the same woman for 50 odd years. I had the same woman for over 50 odd years. Never regretted it.
Yeah, but she still gave you earache now and again, Pete.
Oh, now and again, yes.
Yeah, see, that's my point. Right, okay, then we're going to crack on with the lecture, right? So we will keep that thing about how the fire started until the very, very end. Now,
I forgot to say, I'm going to Peterborough Museum next Monday to see the Must Farm exhibition.
Oh, that'll be good.
So,
and I've told you to take a photograph that represents the whole bloody exhibition in one photograph, and I'll show that in the lecture.
Okay.
So that'll be in the
fall with rain here now.
Oh, for God's sake, just shut up! Right. So now we're back to Must Farm, and we this is a bit of an overview now, and it's sort of. And then when we get into the lecture and for the second part, and obviously Margaret will have been there, so that'll be great. So for me, I've said this: the Must Farm work, what they found at Must Farm, it is jaw breaking. It's amazing. It's spectacular, right? And I did say at the beginning that I didn't really want to talk much about the fire, but we've got a bit of an answer, which I've got, which I think Cambridge archaeology has actually written. So there we go with the kissing again, and obviously having a good old look at the excavation, and you can clearly make out that there only probably a third of the site was excavated, and the money spent on this, just the excavations alone, was about 1.1 million. And obviously all the other work has cost millions and millions and millions and millions of pounds. And it's delightful that the likes of Margaret will be going to see the exhibition to chuck a donation in the box for all the wonders that we're actually seeing today as well. So Must Farm, we think about Bronze Age. It's in when one thing when we look at archaeology. I mentioned this writer Tim Ingold a lot, and you think about the modern age, and then you think about the medieval, and you think about the early medieval, and you think about the Roman and prehistory and so on, right? And it's all intermingled. But with Must Farm, M-U-S-T, Must Farm. I keep saying Musk, but it's Must Farm, M-U-S-T. It's a site that is Bronze Age, and that's it. It's like an ear into the Bronze Age, and it's an ear out of the Bronze Age. So it houses on stilts, raised on stilts above a river, and built roughly around nearly 3,000 years ago, roughly around 950 years BC. And I think, and I'm gonna state this now. I think in the next few years we will have the technology to say the precise day and the time of day that this actually occurred, right? And I reckon I reckon that there's no reason why we haven't got the technology to do that now. But I'm sure you know, when I jokingly say, oh, that happened at 12 seconds past whatever, right? I reckon that they will be able to get as close as saying the hour when this happened. The settlement is exceptionally well preserved, as you can see, because of its sudden destruction by a catastrophic fire and subsequent collapse onto oxygen depleted river silts. The archaeology is unbelievably well preserved. And it's also unbelievably well preserved because it all happened at one moment. So that means that all the layers go into the silts and muds, and they condense and they seal the archaeology in that moment in time. When we think about prehistory, and I know I've said this before, that if this was excavated and none of the wood survived, we would get lots of bronze objects and we would get the pottery, but we'd have no meals in the bowls, right? We would have post holes, right? But we wouldn't have any wood, right? We might have the odd Bronze Age sword, we might have the other Bronze Age objects, but we wouldn't be able to get this idea. It would be a shadow, it would be a ghost. But this is not a ghost or a shadow. This is the embodiment of a representation in time, a bit like Pompeii. The site on the bed of a now defunct river, Flag Fen Basin. And it's basically, you could run over there across the field in about 5 minutes. It's Flag Fen is 1.2 miles away. It's just over there. You know, it's 5 minutes run away. Just go over there. So the site has been described as Britain's Pompeii, and I would go with that because of its condition, and was named Best Archaeological Project and Best Archaeological Discovery at the 2012 awards. And then obviously when they did the that was the 2012 awards when they were working on the landscape of 2011. But when they actually excavated the village itself proper, this was in the British Archaeological Awards a best discovery at the 2016 awards, when the work was actually properly taking place here in 2015, 2016. And it also, the work here won the Antiquity Prize Award in 2020. It's very rare that archaeological sites get this prestigious award. Prestigious awards only issued once a year, and we find so many wonderful things in British archaeology these days that getting this prestigious award tells us again how amazingly important, how unbelievably amazing this site is. And you know, the way they're excavating it, and taking samples and preserving the wood. Andy's back on, bring him in. And this is so far then amazing. This is wow. You know, this is brilliant stuff. Now, the big question is with this site is before work actually took place here, there was a post alignment. There was wooden posts leading to this site. They had an idea that there might be something there, and there was preliminary work on the posts that they were seeing leading to the site in 1999, and excavation work in 2004 and 2006. But they had no idea that what was there was actually the remains of this amazingly well-preserved site in 2015, 2016. Other finds that have been found within this landscape, it is basic a sword in 1969. But again, nobody knew this was going to be there. Nobody had an inkling that this was going to be there. And the reason why they're working in this area in 2011, 2012, not specifically on these buildings, was that in 2011, 2012, they found 8 Bronze Age log boats. Again, wow, a massive thing. Bronze Age log boats were discovered within the vicinity of the site. So the boats were actually found in a small freshwater paleo channel and were preserved because of waterlogging. And they basically thought, you know, there's a walkway leading somewhere. We don't really know where it's leading. We've got a sword, you know, placed in a rapier and a sword, a small sword and a sword they found in the mud. So they thought it was probably very similar to Flag Fen, and they would excavate it when time would be the best time to excavate the site. You know, they again, if they knew this was there, then they probably would have excavated it earlier. But one thing that we do say in archaeology, and I've not said this for a while, is that it's sometimes best to wait when you've got the technology. It's sometimes best to wait when, you know, you've time has moved on a little bit. So I've been asked a few times, you know, when are you going to excavate the site in West Wales, Karl? And I'm thinking, I'm not excavating it yet, because when we do excavate it, we're going to put a building over it, and we're going to have a plastic roof, and we're going to be sheltered from the elements, and then we will excavate, and then we'll have better science available for the work here, and we'll have more money to do the work. And even it's good that they waited to do the work, which could be funded. This work was actually funded by the developer. And you know, the developer funded the work. The money for doing the work would not have been available if it wasn't a site which was due for development. So when I'm out, sometimes people say, why do we excavate that over there? Oh, why do we excavate that over there? Wow, wow, wow. And I think, no, we don't. Yeah, but it's going to be eroded one day. Yeah, one day, right? But we're going to wait until we got the time and resources to do it. Radiocarbon data has indicated that the ages of these boats, back to the boats found in this area, spanned a period of about 1,000 years. So the landscape around here has been used for quite some time, with the earliest examples dating around around 3,750 years ago, which is 750 years before this village. So before this village, before this settlement, people will be using the waterways. Some of the boats may have been deliberately sunk. They are now preserved at Flag Fen and are available to view on guided tours. Before we go on, however, Andy, are you there?
Oh,
Is he there?
he's not saying anything if he is.
Can you see him on the screen?
No.
He should be.
Yes.
I admitted him when
Yes,
he came
I
up.
am. I am here, and I am on the screen, and the camera's working.
Right. Okay then, Andy. What we're going to do when we do the Must Farm proper, well, we are doing it proper today, but this is part one. I've got a document in front of me that is related to it's published. Oh God, it's published by somebody. It's published by the Must Farm Trust, and it's I'm not going to be using this one for the lecture in 2 weeks. I'm using a different document, but I'm going to use this now. So, cause of the fire. What caused the fire that destroyed the site? While study and analysis has helped archaeologists better understand the fire itself and how it likely took hold and destroyed the roundhouses, it hasn't been possible to establish the circumstance of the fire specifically, right? And this is published by the Must Farm Trust. Right, so I think the best way of doing this would be to go off this image and to look at these buildings from this nice sort of colourful thing. There are a range of potential. Oh, Roger, you're just going to miss the fire bit. Okay, babes, I will see you in.
Okay. Good. I just need to stop now and the rest up. Okay, mate. See you all.
Babe, I'll see you
Bye,
in a
Rog.
week.
See you next week.
All right, take care, everybody. Keep warm.
Take care, Rog.
Let's go on.
Don't kiss any Russians.
Cheers. Yeah. No.
Did you? There are a range of potential circumstances surrounding a blaze, and further analysis has highlighted several different scenarios. The stilted roundhouse were built very close together, their roofs touching or almost touching. If a fire took hold in one of the buildings, it would spread very quickly. Between the structures, and could have easily caused the destruction of the settlement. One potential cause was an accident with an internal fire that quickly spiraled out of control. Now, I think that they're explaining that if you think about this in the summer months, and the roofs would be very dry, you've got a fire inside, you've got a reed fire, and this is lapping the wood on the outside, and then there's a further ignition inside with an already stoked fire that sets light to the buildings. It also says that alternately the presence of weapons, a statue of Lloyd George, swords and spears and shields during the late Bronze Age suggests that conflict was an aspect of society at this time. Conflict was an aspect of society at this time. It doesn't mean to say that the building was to do with a specific conflict. Swords and spears were found at Must Farm. The settlement was built in a defensible location over water with a palisade of sharpened stakes surrounding it. Could it be that the settlement was burnt down in an act of aggression? However, a lack of human remains from the site suggests none of its occupants died during the fire. Could they have been driven away? Ultimately, despite the incredible preservation of Must Farm, the cause of the site's destruction is likely to remain elusive, I would say, for now. Right? I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if you missed the bit that I was saying, Andy, that if we, in maybe 10 years' time, they will know specifically the day and the time in the past that this site was set alight. And I mark my words that they will get that information. They got very close with Otzi the Iceman anyway, and that he's obviously much older. So, okay. So Bronze Age woven wooden fish traps and wattle hurdle fish weirs were found in the same channel within this landscape, together with metal work, and it included swords and spears. Now, what I want us to do is I want us to look at these buildings. I want us to look at a cross section. I think cross section is really, really interesting in that. Okay, on the way it's constructed. Right. So this is a really interesting way this has been constructed, and what is rather interesting is this area here. Right. I think that's really tension supports with the building. And looking at this as well, you can see that the water isn't massively deep. The water level would have risen a little bit in the winter months. How much, we don't know, and that would have had an effect on the structures. But it's quite likely that this may have. I would say, obviously, this isn't based on any factuality, but building it at times when the water in the landscape was higher than other times of the year would be the more fortuitous way of building this site, rather than in the summer months when the water level would be much lower than in the winter months. And when it gets to the winter months, the building would have been flooded, right? So take that into mind. Now, I'm looking at this, and I would it's talking about the roof level. You know, I like talking about the roof level. It's talking about thatch, and I would say that there would be skins underneath the thatch. Other than that, the thatch would need to be quite hefty thatch. And then you'd still need to be able to support the thatch above with some kind of wattle meshing underneath. Interesting that you've got a turf roof. Now that puts into theory that directly underneath the turf, you would need some kind of skins underneath the turf, because even if you've got a wattle meshing, when the turf dries out in the summer months, if it rains, the water would go directly into the structure. So you'd need to have something durable underneath that. It's talking about clay, obviously, to seal in the joints. That's very, very interesting. And again, you've got the as a section, you've got really tall timbers to support the internal makeup of the building, which we can work out from the archaeology. And it's talking about it's looking that we've got the external skirt, which is, if we look at, hang on, this is something that I do know about. Hang on, get rid of that. This external skirt here, right? Now that is interesting that the external skirt is actually load bearing directly off the upright timbers in the muds down below. And again, I do like the way that you've got these diagonal supports going into the mud, which even though these are not it's almost tension spring based, and I think that that's a really interesting way of looking at this site. Again, looking at this image as well. Again, remains of a house at Must Farm showing the unburnt stumps of posts under the waterline during the fire and collapsed joists. And this itself is a really interesting image to actually look at. So what you're seeing, taking away the water, you're seeing how this thing decayed. No, start again. You're seeing how the event occurred, allowing us to get a glimpse into an event that almost took place weeks ago. And again, this image does say it all. You've got the palisade in front, which is obviously keeping all the timbers from completely washing away and distorting the way the archaeology actually looks, and lots more. We've got wattle frameworks. We've got wattle aspects for the roof as well to support the pegs if they didn't use hides and so on to support the thatch on the roof. And interesting enough, I've got this really interesting simplified plan, which is actually really simple, but it's really, really interesting. That causeway running down, that's the causeway that they had an idea that they had. That was an earlier causeway that they had actually found, the grey line. So that was an earlier causeway that was leading somewhere. That's what I was talking about, was leading somewhere. I didn't specifically say where it was leading because it was earlier. And obviously the boats, a mixture of earlier and contemporary with this site. But these are 4 of the buildings away from the other buildings that were there, right, that we haven't excavated yet, and we may never excavate, or they might not be as well preserved as this. It might be thinking in your minds, why didn't they excavate the whole site? They didn't excavate the whole site because it's money, time, effort, and sometimes in archaeology we've got to throw away something to allow us to have archaeology. If you excavate everything, then the value of the archaeology that you're excavating decays in value because you're not spending enough time on it. Okay, so in September 2015, the University of Cambridge and the Cambridge's archaeological unit began an excavation in response to into a developer-funded excavation, and also a fund was placed into it by Historic England of £1.1 million. Eventually, the area of the excavation was an area of a whopping 1,100 square meters, and publicly being disclosed properly in 2016. But I'm sure there was press reports in 2015 as they were excavating on the site. So looking at this, to gain the knowledge of the site, archaeologists found initially 2 roundhouses from about 1,000. They thought it was from about 1000 BCE, but we've got more precise date of 950 years BCE, 3000 years ago. Concluded that they were damaged by fire and that the platform on which they sat then slid into the river. The individual platforms, this is not one platform, these are individual platforms, right? That's interesting thinking about that aspect, where the fire was extinguished and the buildings and objects within them were preserved in silt. So what's happening is the water's extinguishing the fire. That is a very, very good point. About half of the settlement is thought to have been lost due to modern quarrying, or it might still be there. We don't really know. As I said, it might not be there. I said that a few moments ago. Objects recovered. So obviously these 4 other all of these 4 buildings were discovered, and they've got evidence of a 4th one, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but they got evidence of a 4th one as well. So again, we've got this image, and we're very familiar with this. Objects recovered including pots still containing food. And again, when we come on to that, we'll show you some of that next time. Textiles woven from lime tree bark and other plant fibers, sections of wattle walls, and amazingly enough, glass beads. And it'd be interesting if you can look out for those glass beads when you go there, Margaret. And all little bits of evidence here in the form of some of the food, fish bones and scales. And sort of talking over this, we've already seen the wooden wheel. We know what the wooden wheel looks like. The wooden wheel of a meter in diameter. And that wooden wheel, as we've already seen, we know dates contemporary with the site, represents the most complete wheel found at the site. The wheel's hub is also present. Listen to this. A horse's spine found nearby suggests the wheel may have been part of a horse-drawn cart. Quite strange link there. What the horse would be doing in one of these buildings, I don't know. Anyway, the find expands our understanding of late Bronze Age technology, and I remember saying that. Yeah, that was great. Now the archaeology has been removed and site buried to be left sealed. The site is reburied, so obviously so the archaeology had been removed, but the site reburied to and it's been left sealed. So not really sure what that means, how much they took away, and so on. Again, looking at these bones, in 2019, researchers at Cambridge and Bristol universities revealed the results of a study of human and dog coprolites found at the site. We know from the everyday doings of the dogs and humans that they obviously ate fish because there's fish tapeworms in the diet. We got capillaria worms and giant kidney worms. It's not exactly saying whether this is from human beings or dogs, and ichneustoma worms as well. The research shows the earliest evidence of human infection by these parasites. And again, thinking about this and thinking about the evidence, so much has been made of the site, and the site has been mentioned in various documentaries, including the BBC television documentary Britain's Pompeii: A Village Lost in Time, and that was broadcast in 2016. So it'd be great to see what Margaret makes of what she sees at the site. This is actually the remains of an eel trap, right? So obviously, as far as I know, eels are not really consumed much these days. But obviously, with an eel trap is that they're siphoned into a little basket at the end, and they can't turn around and get out. So that's the whole point with the eel trap. And what we've got one image of the remains of a boat, one of 8 of the boats that they found associated with the earlier excavations from 2011, and we'll look at that now. So when we look at this, and it's so good that the excavations were all planned and set out, it simply meant that people were able to work on the archaeology properly, and we were able to date it, and that's probably the best way of looking at archaeology. One of the other images to actually look at is actually a Bronze Age sword. And what they're saying, they actually found 2 swords. One was Bronze Age and one was Iron Age. So obviously the one at the bottom is your Iron Age example, and the one at the top is your Bronze Age example. So obviously the Iron Age examples associated with the site, but it's obviously been placed into the water or lost in the water a lot later on. And you can see that the chunky level of the very thick iron with the iron sword at the bottom is a completely different line than the dirk or sword that is actually above. And to be honest with you, it looks like you'd get quite a hefty blow with the iron sword. But in defense, I would probably go with the bronze one above. That would be a lot more maneuverable. And was this iron sword deliberately broken and placed into the water? And that is the question that will always be asked. And what we've got is another image. And what we have, so that one at the bottom is the end of the iron sword. And what you have, it's describing, and I think what we've got is a dagger there. You've got a bit of a dagger there. And it looks like you've got gold gilt on that one. And some kind of that's going to be a bronze sort of a fastening ring for a cloak or a tunic of some design, and that's quite ornate actually. And I think that number 4 might be the evidence of some kind of a scabbard. And what we then and the strange thing is we're looking at this technology and we're thinking about this and so on. And actually, I was looking at my sheep shears earlier on, and I thought, should I bring them to a class and actually show you? Maybe I will. I'm going to bring them along next week. Sheep shears. I'm going to take a note of that. Sheep shears in class. Sheep shears in class. Right. I won't shear a sheep in the class next week. Don't worry about it. But it's quite strange that you look at the technology of a site like this with wheels and shears and so on, and it occurs to me when you look at this, you think about these axe heads, and you think, oh, they look a bit sort of primeval compared with the technology that you've got at Must Farm. And I don't know if that gives you that type of feeling, but it certainly gives me that type of feeling. And so obviously it gives a bit of a description where these are now. So a flange axe, that's an early Bronze Age one there. Not necessarily from this site because it's a lot earlier. And it sort of goes through and it shows you another bit of a design from a pole stave axe, which again predates this site that we're looking at. A socketed spearhead, the one which is number 3. And then what we've got is it's saying number 4. Very interesting design, that one there. Very, very interesting. Talking about a late Bronze Age bag-shaped socketed axe, and that's from a site nearby as well. But we're thinking about this technology, and again, obviously, these are not really from the site, but from within the landscape. And we're looking at these, and we're thinking, this looks a bit more primitive to the archaeology that we're looking at. For me, it does. That's what we feel when we think about the technicalities of that sort of bronze sword that we actually have above. And then this is actually oh yeah, we're going to mention a little bit about this before we go. And we're looking again at a storage vessel, one of not the bowls, but one of the storage vessels actually found at the site. Perfectly preserved, absolutely perfectly preserved there. And again, not only do we get, as I said earlier, not only do we get the wood, we get the perfect preservation of pottery. Usually in Bronze Age sites, we would find pots that are broken, fragmentary, but not as well preserved as this site. And then finally, what we're going to do is I'm going to mention about the publication that they've published about the Must Farm site. And maybe what we might do is that it's actually published in 2 volumes. £45 each. And Peter said that he would send me £100 to buy volume 1 and 2. Thank you very much for that, Pete. You'll never see the books, but that was really good. So it describes this book as follows: the late Bronze Age pile dwelling settlement at Muss Farm is one of the most important and best preserved prehistoric sites to have been systematically excavated in Europe, which is quite a big thing to say. The settlement comprises a curving palisade enclosing 5 stilt raised houses, and we know a lot more houses were there. Those are the ones that we know about, and those are the ones 4 were completely excavated within the Flag Fen Basin, as we know, from about 950 years BC, 3,000 years ago. A catastrophic fire, here we go, engulfed by a catastrophic fire less than a year after construction, Margaret, sending the buildings and their artifacts contents into the sluggish waters below. A combination of fire, water, and rapid burial, and I think the word rapid's important there, rapid burial, ensured extraordinary levels of preservation, whilst the manner of collapse and brevity of settlement gave the structural remains and their vibrant material assemblages a pristine quality. One thing to be said about that, I was reading about that earlier on, that we don't get sort of water worms and sort of the usual decay that we'd associate with sites that have been there for a while. Each household had its own inventory comprising combinations of delicate textiles, wooden containers, wheels, complete pottery sets, bronze toolkits, and the scattered fragments of necklaces of glass beads. And that's interesting. That's just that one thing there. Just read that. Scattered remnants of necklaces of glass beads. So if you're leaving the site, right, you'd be wearing the glass beads in a necklace around your neck. So why did you take them off? Interesting question. Food remains included butchered wild and domestic animal bones, charred plants and seeds, and even the burnt residues of individual meals. This comprehensive and methodological and innovative investigation incorporating an array of specific studies and collaborations amongst leading specialists provides unprecedented insights into the nature of daily life and domestic practice is in Bronze Age society. These challenge many expectations about the material worlds that people inhabited in the Bronze Age in Britain, shedding new light onto aspects of architecture, material abundance, foodways, woodland management, landscape change, and wetland living. The collective results of truly groundbreaking for wetland archaeology. There's 2 books. This one looks at what we've just said, and volume 2 offers in-depth studies of the river setting, construction, dating, material culture, and biological remains. The problem is, as much as it would be great to get both these publications, we're only spending one other lecture on it, and it would be a big investment, but you never know, we could think about it again. But anyway, that's that. And strangely enough, I promised I'd be finished before 10 o'clock, and I've done it. It's 2 minutes to 10. Right, let's do it. David.
No, thank you. Thanks. Good night, all.
Good night, David. See you next week.
Night, David. See you soon.
Night, David. Night. Night, David. Night. Right. Drina, babes.
No questions. Really interesting.
Okay. Okay, good. And Anne.
You mentioned a horse. I thought that was interesting.
The remains of a horse. So
yes, there was a horse there in some way. I've got the remains, wouldn't it?
Yes.
You found it. And you were saying you got the wheels, so that might have been for the horse and cart, but it seems an unusual place for the horse to be in this. Or the other thing, and you'd know better than me, but I think I read somewhere, but one of the first animals to supply us with milk was the horse.
Was the horse? Yeah, that was completely
Might
correct.
they not have had it for milk?
It's very, yeah. This is a thing. When in archaeology, as you can see, as I read it,
Yeah.
you've got a wheel and you've got a horse bone, and
Mm.
immediately it said that the horse bone indicates that the horse pulled the cart or whatever it was with the wheel, right? And that's an assumption that could be completely incorrect. The cart could have been pulled by oxen. The horse may have been there for some other reason, i.e., milk. The first animals that gave us milk were actually the horse, and it was a different milk altogether. I've missed the opportunity now, but well, no, I haven't. But somebody said about milking my sheep, and I probably I know I tried some of the milk off the other sheep last year, but sheep's milk and goat's milk is very rich. So's pig's milk, but horse's milk is much better. But it's a different type of milk. So some people are intolerant to cow's milk, which I am, but goat's milk is perfect for me. So yeah, so that I like that analogy. Yeah, I thought, yeah, I'm glad you questioned that. Okay then, anything else, Anne?
No, that's all. Thanks.
So we've done Drina, we've done Anne, we have done you, Drina, haven't we? Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah, good.
Many.
Yeah, but Drina,
Saucy.
you're letting too much out of the box today, okay? Right, including the kissing, right? Yeah. Did you notice that when Drina met me at Vindolanda, she took me behind the minibus?
That was because it was blowing a gale.
It was.
Oh.
We're all hiding behind the mini.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that was true. Shut up, Andy.
Sorry.
Drina and I can dream. Right, Andy, anything?
No questions, thanks.
Okay, we'll do a woman next, Pete.
No, nothing from me. No, all good, fine.
We thought we'd lost you earlier on when we were talking about breast, Pete. Right. No, Margaret, we won't go there with you. Margaret, anything you want to say?
Well, I guess it's quite important for them to discover what time of the year the fire happened and if it was daytime or nighttime. Because
I do have a document that, yeah.
Because the fact that they've not found many skeletons, I think they've only found one young female, haven't they, so far?
They found the remains of, so far, that's the only one they're going to find because the project, but they found the remains of somebody, but obviously that could be anything, and it could be a later body. So, and it's obviously in the mud. So it could be an earlier body, later body, unless they date it precisely.
I mean, you're a farmer, so
yes.
When it's your busiest time of the year on the land with your lambs, it'll be springtime, probably, is it?
Yeah, it's been quite exhausting. So it's basically all hands to the deck. So it's been. When you have lambs, you're into it. Everybody drops everything that they're doing, and you can get a clue from that. Everyone drops everything, and you just get into the animals. You forget what you're doing, right? For example, I remember one of the lambs was born. I left the light on. I think I left the radio on and the computer on, and I was look at the amount of power you've actually just used, but you just drop everything, right? And that is the danger when you're living. Obviously I got the burner here, but one day I fell asleep, and the door had sprung open, right? And you don't fall asleep with anything like this. Anything naked flame, you don't leave it. But things happen. Things happen. You make mistakes.
They could have all been out on the land with the animals and doing their farming, and maybe left something simmering. And I guess the air underneath the platform, when the platform burnt down, the air would have ignited the fire. wouldn't it, from underneath?
Particularly if it was the summer months.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've actually got in front of me a PDF document, right, which is actually answering most of these questions, but I don't want to do it now.
Okay.
It's talking about the year and
Right.
Bones and Emma, and it's talking about it's Emma Wheat and stuff. It's
Right.
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I haven't actually read through this properly, but I don't. Well, if I don't want to do it, can't do it now. But it looks like most of the answers that we need are there, other than the fire, because we've already done that bit. So right, okay, and right, and anything else, folks? And this will be an early finish today. 5 minutes past 10. Amazing. No. Okay, then next time we're going to be doing more astronomy, right? I decided we'll invite John back again just to wind Peter up, and everybody else. If they no other questions,
No, thanks.
No.
No.
Anyway, thanks everybody for getting all the monies over. That's been really good, and we'll have obviously new technology next week. So I need to probably try it out first because yeah, we'll see if Betsy can take the power. But then again, it was a brand new desktop, and I only used it for about a year and a bit, so should be okay. Okay then. Well, that's it.
Okay.
That's it for tonight. So
Bye.
anyway, many thanks. So I'm going to say good night to everybody. If nothing else got anything to say,
Good night.
let's say good night.
Thanks.
And
Good night.
Andy, Margaret, and Drina.
Thanks.
Night.
Bye.
Good
Bye
night,
all.
everyone.
My
Bye
pleasure.
all.
My pleasure. Night. Hopefully new technology next week. Right. And it's looking pretty good. I look pretty good, don't I? It's looking pretty cool. Nobody said anything else online tonight. And I'm hoping that I can get the old technology back and looking for a good camera again, because my other one was a good camera, but it just, after a year and a bit, it just fell apart. Couldn't be that good. 100 odd quid. Right, okay then. No, folks. Diolch yn fawr i chi, gwelwch chi eto, and I'll see you soon. Oh, we've got to get a speaker as well. It was good having a speaker. Speaker. I got a cat. I got a cat. You're wet. Why are you wet? Ugh. I don't know. Have you been outside? Hang on, I'm going to be back. You been outside or something? Oh. I didn't know I left that open. What's that going over here? Is it a monster? Is it a monster? Put nothing on there for a few days. Oh God. I was getting cold. I've had the freaking door open, haven't I? That's why the cat's wet. I thought he peed all over himself. But he hadn't. He's fine. He's a nice cat. Anyway, diolch yn fawr i chi. Look at the chat box. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Those weird things, those sort of things from the 19 whatever. The Groucho brothers. That's it. The Groucho brothers. Looks like one of the Groucho brothers. Anyway, take care. Diolch yn fawr chi, gwelwch chi eto, and thanks for watching tonight. And anyone who wants to make a contribution towards some new technology, they can send something over by PayPal. Just making sure that I can get everything sorted out this month. There you go, .com. Okay, thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr chi, and yeah, good night, folks. Good night, 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 good night. Okay. Oh, chat box. Chat box TV. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So. No, folks. No. Night. Right. Okay. Night. Right. Good. Let's end that.